Welcome to Sproutcast, where we speak with changemakers, social innovators and entrepreneurs about how to make the world a better place. And now, here's your host, Julia Duffy.
Welcome back to Sproutcast. My name is Julia Duffy and today we're speaking with Jennene Buckley. Jennene Buckley has worked in the health and aged care sector for 20 years, including roles in business management, finance management, and for the past 13 years as the CEO of Feros Care. In her 13 years as Chief Executive Officer, Jennene Buckley has expanded Feros Care from a single locality residential provider to one of the fastest growing aged and community care services on the east coast of Australia. Today, Feros Care's service footprint spans 4 states for community care and nationally for their LifeLink telehealthcare service. She is a fellow CPA and has recently completed an executive leadership program through the London Business School. Jennene was a finalist in the 2008 Telstra Business Women of the Year Awards. Jennene has a passion for aged care and is seen as an industry leader in innovative practice. Apart from a 2-year stint in Ballina, Jennene has lived all of her life in the Tweed, with her family and children studying and working locally. Jennene has served on the board of the Aged Care Services Association New South Wales and ACT and speaks regularly at state and national and international conferences. Thank you very much for speaking with me today, Jennene.
Oh, thank you, Julia.
So I might get started, Jennene, by asking you kind of what your first experience of the non-profit sector was, how you became involved in it and why you were interested in becoming involved.
I didn't initially have a specific desire to work in the not-for-profit sector. Like you said, my trade is an accountant, and I started in the commercial sector with Ernst & Young straight out of high school. And then I moved into a business management role in Queensland Health, which was supporting many of their community and public health units, which I really enjoyed. And then a role came up in a very large not-for-profit organisation in 1997, an aged care organisation called Blue Care. And I guess for me that was when I fell in love with aged care. And I soon realised that a not-for-profit is a very vibrant community business that is just driven by their mission, and everyone feels that sense of purpose. And it doesn't matter whether you're a direct care worker or a manager or you work in the IT department, it just provides just a wonderful sense, of purpose for everybody. And I think that's what I love about the sector.
Wonderful. Now, Feros Care is an excellent example of a thriving non-profit organisation. I was wondering if you could tell me a little bit about what makes your organisation so successful and impactful, and what you feel has driven the organisation's success.
For me, because I've been with the organisation for many years, it's actually 15 years this year, it's been an evolution for me, and I think many of our initiatives and ideas over the years had built on one another, and I think that the success has a number of factors, but if I had to sort of narrow them down, I certainly would think having an absolute big corporate dream or vision for the organisation, something that you strive for every single day, and you're thinking 5 or 10 years ahead. I think secondly, creating a culture that staff thrive on is absolutely critically important and probably our biggest strategy. And I guess the last one is in any not-for-profit organisation, they're big industries and big sectors, and it's very important that you are innovative and you have a point of difference. And so I think creating a culture where it's you're rewarded for trying new things and you're rewarded for moving on opportunities quickly. I think that is something that's part of our DNA and has certainly helped us with our success.
What are some of the challenges your organisation and organisations that you've interacted with are facing in the sector right now, and how are you working to overcome them?
In the aged care sector, we're going through a significant reform process that's moving very quickly, and is, I think, there's a roadmap for the next, at least the next 5 years. And this is quite overwhelming for many providers, just trying to keep up and to anticipate, what the next sort of in the next reform process is going to be. And I think that is certainly the biggest challenge that we have at the moment, being able to make sure that we're considering our risks and trying to, mitigate them as much as possible. The government, sometimes is not great at these type of reform changes. So it's been very important that we maintain relationships with the government and try to help them, I guess, mould the way forward. And that, I think it just takes a lot of resources and takes us sometimes a little bit off your strategy because you're so busy trying to just react to the government changes. So that really has been a struggle. I think it's very important that not-for-profit organisations, like I said, know their risks, make sure they resource well in these times of change, and also always keep their eye on viability and still make sure that they're planning ahead.
Considering the environment of change the non-profit sector is in at the moment, I was wondering what your thoughts were on the kind of situation this creates for new and emerging organisations. Could you speak on how challenging or perhaps the opportunities that there are out there for those types of organisations?
I think there's significant opportunity, particularly in the aged care arena for new organisations, simply because it's just such a large marketplace. I think that, to enter this market, you do need to know, identify a point of entry. That's important, and also to understand what your point of difference is going to be, and to really understand your clients and what they're wanting. And I think, and also make sure that you're collaborating well with other providers and also peak bodies. And also, I think what some not-for-profits don't do well, and I think that they just need to, is that they need to invest in their own research and development. They need to invest in their own small pilots and new models of care. It's not something that there's going to be a grant out there for necessarily, and I think that's what drives an innovative organisation where you are leading the way. You don't need to be the biggest organisation to be a leader in the industry, and I think Feros Care is probably an example of that. We're quite small in aged care terms, but we are seen as leaders in a number of different areas within the sector. And it's about you investing in your own R&D and showcasing it.
Okay, wonderful. I'm interested also from the perspective of someone starting or growing a new organisation. What kind of where you would look perhaps for advice or mentorship in the non-profit sector? If I was someone listening to this podcast and I was looking for the kind of advice you just gave, then where would you seek help, do you think?
Yes, look, I think with the not-for-profit sector, it's not a lot of difference. At the end of the day, it's a community business. You want to build a vibrant business that is reacting to the market, that is agile enough to be able to take on opportunities, that's sustainable enough to be able to invest, like I said, in innovation and research. So those mentors can be really from outside of sector as well as inside of sector. So I think it's just, it is just calling on people that you know and building networks, and you'll find those mentors. A couple of my mentors are outside of sector, people who are very resourceful and who are well networked and who are very experienced and wise. So I think, when it comes to those type of mentors, I think they can come from anywhere. And then, like I mentioned before, it's then really getting to know the networks within the industry and participating, in peak body forums and conferences, and looking internationally for best practice as well. But at the end of the day, you really are just running a business, but you just have this wonderful mission that just gets people excited about being in that organisation. Very different sometimes to some commercial organisations that are just looking at their bottom line.
It's very interesting to hear you mention on multiple occasions about the importance of mission for your organisation. Is that something that really drives the work you do, that I think makes that is integral to to the way you work and to the success of your organisation?
Oh, absolutely. I guess that is what's so special about not-for-profit organisations, is because usually they've got a wonderful purpose. I mean, our purpose is to support seniors to live their best life, and it doesn't matter, what grand vision we've got and what projects we're working on. That all our projects and all our initiatives are all around that mission. It just never changes, and that's what we get such satisfaction from. And like I said, it doesn't matter whether you're the IT help desk, or you're the CEO, or you're the direct care worker. Everyone feels that sense of purpose, and that's a wonderful thing.
Feros Care has a really excellent record of staff development and engagement. Is the staff engagement in the mission and your cohesiveness working towards this mission something that drives that? Could you tell us what it is that makes your staff development and engagement so good?
Yes, I think this comes from the leadership and the ethos of the organisation. Actually, from the leadership, from the board, the senior managers, and then of course managers. I think it is about acknowledging that your staff are your absolutely biggest strategy. That I always say that, particularly for a service organisation like Feros Care, our staff create our reputation. Our staff is our customer service. Our staff create our client outcomes. So if you don't look after them and cherish them and develop them and upskill them and make them feel important, then you don't have that reputation. It just falls away. And so I think if people keep that in mind when they're setting their strategy, like Feros has 3 key result areas in our latest strategic plan, and one of them is completely around our staff and our culture. So that's very important to us. And then it's creating that environment and being true to it and meaning it. Like, as you grow, we've got to be very careful that we don't dilute our culture. And so you're working on it every single day in your recruitment, in the workplace environment that you're creating, in the way you treat people, and how important your values are, and are they really living values, and can people speak about them? And it's something that it's a whole strategy that you just that never ends. So I think for Feros, that's always been a very important part of our business. And people say that you can feel the culture by just one interaction with our staff, and that's a lovely thing to hear. But it has been a journey over a number of years, and like I said, a journey that never ends.
Wonderful. From the perspective of someone in a new organisation or starting something new, would you have any suggestions for how they could kickstart having such excellent staff engagement? How can you find the right people and know that they're the right people for your organisation?
Oh, gee, that's a tricky one, Julia. I think it's it's a lot of hard work. I think initially it's creating that culture that's very defined, that people can read about, hear about, and see. So how that might look for an organisation can be very different. But I think, many people say that they come to Feros now because they're attracted to our reputation. They're attracted to the fact that we're innovative, and they hear about our culture. So somehow you need to create that environment and then make sure that people know about it. And, that could be through, certainly through you talking at conferences, obviously it's going to come from the clients as well in the community. They're going to see it through your social media and your website and what you write about the organisation. A lot of people say they read our stories and everything on our social media and website and just fell in love with us. So don't underestimate the value of telling your story and trying to bring your culture alive through that medium. So I think that's very important. Our last recruitment campaign we got 1,000 applicants.
Oh, wow.
And that's not bad. Probably a little bit overwhelming, really, but it is, but that's over time. I'm not suggesting it happened overnight, but it is about trying to, not just have some values on a wall and not mean them, is actually living them, and then telling that story. And I think that helps attract people. And then when they come here, it is the culture that they read about. I think that's very important too.
Is a key part of that culture developing the staff and supporting their growth and supporting leadership? Because I understand that Feros Care does have a commitment to supporting emerging leaders, as is evidenced by your involvement in Sprout Summit this year. Could you talk a little bit about why you think that's so important?
We absolutely try to, of course, we bring new people into our organisation. You need to do that as well. But at the same time, we would commit to, I think it could be even a little bit higher, but at least 50% of our new positions are promotions within, and at least that. And then, of course, we have, which is nice too, is to have an injection of new skills as well within the organisation. But, you know, there's nothing more satisfying than creating a career path for staff. And we've, you know, one of our most senior clinicians, our director of clinical services, was a casual nurse many years ago who's worked her way up. There's many examples of that. So the way that I guess we do that is a number of different things, but certainly we've developed our own in-house leadership program, which is a 3-year course that we bring in our own speakers, and we've developed all the material ourselves, and they're actually all based on our 6 values within the organisation and teaching people soft skills and around leadership and innovation and how to make ideas a reality, and really trying to build that skill set up in our staff. Any one of our staff can actually be a part of that leadership program, whether you're a carer out in the field or whether you're a senior manager. So it's adult learning, and so I think that's a very important part. And yes, we try to give our staff opportunities. We do lots of projects. We manage our organisation by projects, which means staff get to be exposed to project teams, get exposed to new concepts and new ideas, and that over time just builds their skills around working in groups, working in teams, leading teams. And then of course there's opportunities like Sprout Summit and other conferences where we allow our staff to go and learn new ways and build their skills and look outside the box on a number of matters. So we have a very good learning and development budget, and we also invest heavily in leadership skills.
Now I might shift gears now slightly to talk about something you actually mentioned as part of your leadership program about getting an idea from the theoretical position to making it a reality, about how you transition having a fantastic idea into a fully fledged program or organisation or initiative. Many of the other guests that I've discussed this with have been people who've started their own organisation, but I think this is, I guess, a skill or an attribute that is also really important to be in touch with within an organisation. How have you made ideas happen in your organisation, and how do you, I guess, coach other people in developing this skill?
I think there's a number of different components to this. I think, firstly, it's very important to have a board and a senior team who don't put barriers in front of people or in front of teams to innovate, so that there's not this big bureaucratic process and a lot of people, sitting back and delaying making decisions. So that's certainly not something that Feros Care is known for. We probably jump in head first on a lot of things, but then we've realised that's probably what's made us agile and what's given us a lot of ideas. So what I mean by that is that a lot of times we'll have an idea and we'll give it a go without a lot of months of planning. We'll bring together a project team and we'll start small with a small trial of a particular idea and concept. What might happen later is we might then put a research project around it to gather, to demonstrate the evidence that particular project has worked well. But we'd like to ignite ideas and let teams have a go at whatever that idea might be, at the risk of that it may not get anywhere. And that has worked really, really well for us. We also have a process, though, in saying that. So we've got a program called our Applauding Innovation Program, and that is like these simple steps about making a simple idea a reality. And some ideas don't even require senior management approval. It might be something that they're working on in a team that, and there's sort of criteria, where there's other projects that require money and a lot more resources, and so there's an approval process. But it's only a two-step process. It's not a huge process. And so I think it's about trying to empower people to try new ideas at a lower level, and then if they've got a bigger idea, just making that a little bit simpler process, but not, a bit more formal process, but not a whole bureaucracy around it. And we also make sure that we allocate funding each year for ideas, and then very importantly is reward them for their ideas. And that might be like we have an Innovations Cup at our annual staff dinner. So we bring all our staff, we're in 4 states, so we fly them all in for a dinner, and we sell it, and we have a particular an award just around idea generation, so they can see that it's very important to us. And then also, there's other people that have had financial rewards and promotions based on their ideas. So it's, again, a program that's been run over many, many years for us, but is very important to us.
Wonderful. That sounds fantastic. I was interested in something you mentioned at the start of that about your board and the way your board supports innovation within your organisation. Could you tell me a little bit more about how you work with your board and the kind of relationship you have with them?
Sure. I guess our board is as excited as the managers and the staff about the vision for our organisation and our mission. And that's a wonder, and they enjoy the fact that that we are innovative, and and that and they understand that our growth and our reputation is based on that innovation. So they're very open to new ideas, which is wonderful. And I think the reason that and because we start small, I think that means a lot of what we do at that sort of beginning stage is not really resource intensive, and so there's not huge proposals that are required, so that helps as well. But we set a strategic plan. We set, they give us a scope of geography, scope of services that we can look at, and then pretty much they allow us to do what we do best. So they allow us to, we're not going to them every month saying, we want to try this and we want to try that. They trust the team. They know we've got a process. We've got very strong risk management strategy. So they're not, they're not concerned about us embarking on something that hasn't been well planned and well considered. So that's good as far as risks are concerned and ethics are concerned. So they just allow us to do it. Now, if we want to take it to another step, say for example, Feros is wanting to enter into a joint venture partnership with a service in New Zealand, then of course full proposal goes to the board, like those type of things we need to take to them. But they give us that scope to innovate internally until it's something that's quite large, and then we take it to them. But I don't think, actually, in 15 years there hasn't been one idea that they've knocked back, because I guess by the time it gets to the board, it's been well considered, well researched, and the proposal's strong.
From the perspective of the board, do they drive a much innovation or new ideas in the other direction?
They've got a very clear understanding of what their responsibilities are as a board. They're very much a governing board. They aren't in the industry every single day. So they're not thinking that they're the sole creator of ideas or strategy. In saying all of that, they're very interested in the industry. They certainly will feedback on anything that they've seen, or things that they think that the senior team might be interested in exploring. They're involved in that formulation of that strategic plan. But once that strategic plan is set, they hand that over to the senior team, or the CEO and the senior team, to deliver. So that's how they work. And really, that they monitor strategy, they monitor risk. And they make sure that good decisions are made. They ask the right questions when we put forward proposals to them. But in the day-to-day, no, they're not necessarily involved in those idea generation. But of course, if they've seen something through their networks or whatever, they'll bring it straight back to us to work on.
One of the questions I wanted to ask you before we start to finish up is what you would recommend that aspiring leaders do, I guess, as a starting point for becoming more involved in the NFP space. What would your, suggested first steps be for becoming involved?
I guess, look, time's not on everybody's side, and certainly, I guess, for any not-for-profit, there's always looking for some sort of volunteers, whether that might even be at a governance level, even a membership level or an operational level. So I guess you can experience the excitement or the environment of a not-for-profit by just even volunteering. That could be a way that you could play. There's also a lot of partnership opportunities. So if you're in a commercial organisation and you're wanting to partner with not-for-profits, we have 300 different commercial organisations that help provide services. There's wonderful opportunities, particularly in aged care, for small startup companies that are either for-profit or not-for-profit in providing direct service delivery, even IT. I mean, you name it. There's lots of opportunities to actually partner with not-for-profit. So I guess that's that opportunity. But like I said, not-for-profits are a community business. They're looking for talented staff, no different to commercial organisations. That in every area, in law and finance, in marketing, in direct care. So it doesn't, in human resources, it doesn't really matter. And I think that, there's huge career opportunities in not-for-profits, and I'd be looking on the net for a role. It's the best job I've ever had. I can't imagine going to go work for a commercial organisation now after being in the not-for-profit space.
Wonderful. So there should be nothing holding anyone back then?
No, not at all.
And I mean, I guess you've already just touched on this, but I was wondering if you had anything else to say about what makes you so excited to work in the sector, and maybe are there any other interesting things that you're seeing other organisations do or that you're seeing emerging in the sector that you're finding exciting and that you're interested to share with everyone?
I guess for me, with the aged care sector, I've talked about a lot of reform, and yes, that can take up a little bit of your creative space. But I think I can only speak for the aged care sector, but I think that it's this. Right now there's about 1 in 7 of us over the age of 65, but with the population, the baby boomers, there's going to be a quarter of us over the age of 65, by the year 2050. That's 1 in 4 people. And, so it's going to be a very large part of our community is going to be our senior population. And Feros is very excited about, I guess, a part of our mission, certainly over these next couple of decades, is to change the face of aged care and the stereotypes of older people. And so we have this new logo called Celebrating Aging, and we have this mandate just to cut through those stereotypes. And we're doing some really exciting, provocative work around just changing, the look of aging. And you'll see that if you go on our website, you'll see the type of imagery we have. We've got lots of fun sort of competitions around get bold, not old, and a lot of conversations around aging. We're putting these big blackboards up in Writers' Festivals and Federation Square in Melbourne and Brisbane, and the Byron Bay Writers' Festival. So we're sort of trying to start a national conversation around aging well, rather than aged care, because we're all aging. So I think that's really fun. And I think that, and even the reform process is talking about consumer-directed care, and really it's about putting seniors in the driver's seat for their care and support as they age. And I think that's a wonderful new sort of concept that aged care providers need to really engage with, and we love being a part of that change. So I think that again is very exciting. And technology, just the use of technology in everything that we do, is certainly an edge for us. We've got wonderful infrastructure. We have most of our staff in the community are teleworkers. We only have one admin office nationally. Everyone's virtual. So if you're a tech head or you're an IT guru, then we have just some wonderful initiatives and programs that are happening in the business intelligence and I guess the sort of the development space around apps and a whole heap of different sort of virtual programs that we're running.
Wonderful. And finally, I guess, where can people find you, apart from at Sprout Summit in a couple of weeks? Where can they find you if they want to learn more or ask any questions or just get in touch?
I think probably the best thing, Julie, would be just on social media. So I'm on LinkedIn and Twitter and Facebook, and so I suppose you can certainly get me on LinkedIn if that's probably the easiest way. Just send me a message and we can link up that way.
Wonderful. Sounds fantastic. Well, thank you so much for speaking with us on Sproutcast today, Jennene. It's been fascinating. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. I'm really looking forward to the Sprout Summit.
Just a reminder to listeners, Sprout Summit is approaching fast. If you're interested in learning about starting organisations, joining boards, sustainability and scalability, incubation, crowdfunding and legal requirements of directors, then you should join us to discover the practical tools, processes and insights needed to create positive impact. Book your tickets today at sproutsummit.com. We look forward to seeing many of you there, and if you can't make it to the event, don't forget you can also follow us on Twitter, we're at Sprout Summit, or follow our event hashtag Sprout15.